Hello, welcome back to Majestic Grace Bible School. This is Proverbs 25 today, and I'm reading out of the Amplified Bible. So, verse 25 says, "These are also the Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied." And in 1 Kings 4:32, it says that Solomon also originated 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. That's a lot of work. Verse 2, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the glory of kings is to search out a thing." Now let's look at Deuteronomy 29:29. It says, "The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law." And also in Romans 11:33, "Oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and the knowledge of God, how unfathomable, inscrutable, unsearchable are his judgments, his decisions, and how untraceable, mysterious, undiscoverable are his ways, his methods, and his paths." The secret things of the Lord. Verse 3, "As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the hearts and minds of kings are unsearchable. Take away the dross from the silver, and there shall come forth the material for a vessel for the silversmith to work up." So let's look at 2 Timothy 2:21. It says, "So whoever cleanses himself from what is ignoble and unclean, who separates himself from contact with contaminating and corrupting influences, will then himself be a vessel set apart and useful for honorable and noble purposes, consecrated and profitable to the master, fit and ready for any good work." Cleansing ourselves to be ready to be used by God. Verse 5, "Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness, moral and spiritual rectitude in every area and relation." Verse 6, "Be not forward, self assertive, and boastful or ambitious in the presence of the king, and stand not in the place of great men. For better it is that it should be said to you, 'Come up here,' than that you should be put lower in the presence of the prince whose eyes have seen you." Let's look at Luke 14:8 through 10. It says, "When you are invited by anyone to a marriage feast, do not recline on the chief seat in the place of honor, lest a more distinguished person than you has been invited by him. And he who invited both of you will come to you and say, 'This man may have the place that you have taken.' Then, with humiliation and a guilty sense of impropriety, you will begin to take the lowest place." It says, "But when you are invited, go and recline in the lowest place, so that when your host comes in, he may say to you, 'Friend, go up higher.' Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you." Wow. Okay. Let's go to verse 8. "Rush not forth soon to quarrel before magistrates or elsewhere, lest you know not what to do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame." Okay, let's go to Proverbs 17:14. The beginning of strife is as when water first trickles from a crack in a dam. Therefore, stop contention before it becomes worse and quarreling breaks out. Now, if we go to also Matthew 5:25, it says, "Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way traveling with him, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison." Okay, let's go on. It says, "Argue your cause with your neighbor himself. Discover not and disclose not another's secret." Let me just stop there for 1 second and say that you, as pastors and leaders, if you are in a situation where someone has come and confided their secrets in you, it is so important that you remain silent and guard their secret, that you do not um, condemn them in front of others. For, God will bless you with that secret and give you wisdom as to how to counsel them. And you may have to say to them, either you need to go and apologize, or you may need to go and turn yourself into the authorities. I don't, you never know the circumstance or the situation, but pray that God will give you great wisdom to deal with every circumstance while you remain with great confidence the secret that's been given to you. This is important, especially if you're counseling someone. Okay, where are we at? Let's see. Let's go to verse 9. Oh, okay, that's where we are. "Argue your cause with your neighbor himself, and discover not and disclose not another's secret." Then in Matthew 18:15 it says, "If your brother wrongs you, go and show him his fault between you and him privately. If he listens to you, you have won back your brother." Okay, let's see, where are we at? Verse 10, "Lest he who hears you revile you and bring shame upon you, and your ill repute have no end." Verse 11, "A word fitly spoken and in due season is like apples of gold in settings of silver." That's always been a favorite. The words that you speak can be apples of gold in settings of silver. Proverbs 15:23 says, "A man has joy in making an apt answer, and a word spoken at the right moment, how good it is." And then in Isaiah 50, verse 4, it says, "The servant of God says, the Lord God has given me the tongue of a disciple and of one who is taught, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him who is weary. He awakens me morning by morning. He wakens my ear to hear as a disciple, as one who is taught." He awakens our ear to hear his voice. Oh, yes. Okay, let's see. Let's go to verse 12. "Like an earring or nose ring of gold, or an ornament of fine gold, is a wise reprover to an ear that listens and obeys." Verse 13, "Like the cold of snow brought from the mountains in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the life of his master." Verse 14, "Whoever falsely boasts of gifts that he does not give is like clouds and wind without rain." Jude 12. "These are hidden reefs, elements of danger in your love feasts, where they boldly feast sumptuously, carousing together in your midst, without scruples, providing for themselves alone, They are clouds without water, swept along by the winds, the trees without fruit at the late autumn gathering time, twice doubly dead, lifeless, and plucked up by the roots. Ah, those who come among you who are self seeking, self centered, and searching out what it is that they can gain by being in your midst. Verse 15, by long forbearance and calmness of spirit, a judge or ruler is persuaded, and soft speech breaks down the most bone like resistance. Let's look at Genesis 32:4. And he commanded them, say this to my lord Esau, your servant Jacob says this, I have been living temporarily with Laban and have stayed there until now. And I have oxen and donkeys, flocks, men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find mercy and kindness in your sight. So here is Jacob humbling himself before his brother Esau, desiring reconciliation. So he's sending in advance gifts to his brother to hopefully have him be kind to him. Samuel 25:24 says, kneeling at his feet, she said, this is Abigail kneeling before David. Kneeling at his feet, she said, upon me alone, let this guilt be, my Lord, and let your handmaid, I pray you, speak in your presence and hear the words of your handmaid. You know, here is this woman who's desperately trying to save herself, her family, and her household. And she's just humbling herself before David and crying out to David, please, I pray, let me speak to you on behalf of my family, basically. And then once again, here we have Proverbs 16:14, excuse me, Proverbs 15:1 says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. And in 16:14, the wrath of a king is as messengers of death, but a wise man will pacify it. You know, let's go back to that soft answer that turns away wrath. I remember one time my boss was yelling at me, and I simply lowered my voice very quietly and responded, and instantly his wrath just diffused. It was such a good example of God speaking to me and teaching me his word because I had just read that scripture the day before that a soft answer turneth away wrath. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's yelling at you, so you yell louder, then they yell louder, then they yell louder? Pretty soon it escalates into a screaming match. Next time, try answering very softly, very quietly, and see if it doesn't just immediately diffuse the situation. All right, let's go on here. Verse 16, have you found pleasure sweet like honey? Eat only as much as is sufficient for you, lest being filled with it, you vomit it. A little too much. Verse 17, let your foot seldom be in your neighbor's house, lest he become tired of you and hate you. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a heavy sledgehammer and a sword and a sharp arrow. Confidence is in an unfaithful man in times of trouble is like a broken tooth or a foot out of joint. In other words, putting your confidence in someone who's not faithful to you is like a great deal of pain to you. Verse 20, he who sings songs to a heavy heart is like him who lays off a garment in cold weather and like vinegar upon soda, which just, as soon as you put vinegar on soda, it just explodes. So let's see, where are we at here? So this is saying Romans 12:20. In Romans, let's see, Oh, let's see. Is that where we want to go? Nope, I'm in the wrong place. Excuse me. Romans 12:15. Hmm, there it is. Rejoice with those who rejoice, share others' joy, and weep with those who weep, sharing others' grief. It says, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. And if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. That's Matthew 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And Romans 12:20. But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For by so doing, you will heap burning coals upon his head. So I think what the Lord out here says it again in verse 22. For in so doing, you will heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord will reward you. I think as we're kind to our enemies, then the Lord brings conviction to them. And hopefully that those burning coals actually make them think twice about what it is they're doing. Okay, Proverbs 25:23. The north wind brings forth rain, so does a backbiting tongue bring forth an angry countenance. It is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than to share a house with a disagreeing, quarrelsome, and scolding woman. Proverbs 21:9. Again, it says, it is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop on the flat oriental roof exposed to all kinds of weather than in a house shared with a nagging, quarrelsome, and fault finding woman. Women, those of you who are listening, I think this is a good lesson for us to be careful that we are not quarrelsome and condemning and speaking bad things about our husbands, but speaking good and choosing to find the good in them and not the faults in them. Okay, verse 25. Like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far home country. Like a muddied fountain and a polluted spring is a righteous man who yields, falls down, and compromises his integrity before the wicked. It is not good to eat much honey. So for men to seek glory, their own glory, causes suffering and is not glory. In other words, don't seek your own recognition. In verse 28, he who has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He who rules his own spirit than he who takes a city. So before we can go and conquer a city, we need to conquer ourselves. Interesting thought. I hope this class blessed you. See you in the next one. God bless.